Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 5, Episode 8. I am your host, Alejandro, with me, my beloved Palico.
Joe LaRussa, how you doing, everybody?
That's
I don't know why I
it.
did a wink with a gunshot. Palicos don't usually shoot things. They
Yes.
throw
No,
puff bubbles at you.
funny enough, they actually do shoot stuff in the new
Oh, do
one.
they shoot in this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
they shoot in this
They
one,
they,
but
they have a sling. Didn't they have a sling in
yeah,
World, I think?
I think so. Yeah, it's like you
Yeah.
can like equip them with anything. It's been a while since I played World, but
Yeah.
yeah, how you doing, Joe? It's been a week. Like this week was kind of flown by since we last recorded. That feels so long ago. But I was like,
Yeah.
because I was trying to look at the news, and I was like, what do we cover? It's like, gosh, so much has happened this week in almost everything. But I'm ready
Yeah.
to escape. But how you doing? We
Doing good.
obviously like
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
I
Life.
I edited out, like people didn't know, I edited out the thing that happened last week, but we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. It
That's
man
fine.
should be like all smooth, but wishing you best in that. Like
Thank you.
no
Yeah.
one no one needs to know about that. But happy to be here to escape a little bit with you to talk about some fun games today, because this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you're enjoying our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, the moment that I've been waiting for a while, because almost 3 weeks, I can finally talk about Monster
You got a
Hunter
PlayStation
Wilds.
Portal.
And that too. You can all
No,
see it if you're
that's
in, and you can all see it here in the screen if you're in video. I actually bought a Portal, the black one. That is more recent. But before I talk about
yeah.
those things, Joe, regale me with some of your like campfire stories around A Way Out and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Yeah, sure. So, finished A Way Out. I enjoyed A Way Out. My girlfriend also enjoyed it for the most part. She wasn't as crazy about it as she liked It Takes Two, and I think she's really excited for Split Fiction coming out just
Mm-hmm.
in like the next week. So
Why do you
that'll
think
be
she
fun.
didn't like A Way Out? Was it more the theme that the kind of like that what A Way Out
I
was
don't want to
about?
say why she didn't like it because it's too spoilery to say
Oh,
why she
okay,
didn't like it. So
okay.
there were certain things that she did not care for as much without spoiling anything about the
Mm-hmm.
game. So I liked it still. Spoilers aside, I still thought it was pretty fun. It's definitely not as strong of a game as It Takes Two is in terms of its ideas and its mini games and its mechanics, but you can see where they got there. You can
Mm-hmm.
see how the through line between I've never played Brothers, but you can see the through line between A Way Out and It Takes Two, and hopefully that will continue through Split Fiction because that'll be fun to play. Yeah, so I don't have too much more to say on that one. We finished it not long after where I was when I spoke about it last week, so we got through that and it was good. I was happy to finally have played that game because I really looked forward to it and thought it looked really cool when it was first announced. And I just didn't have anyone to play with at the time, and now I do.
Yeah,
So
that's what it's funny that you mentioned it, because I remember looking at it and thinking that it looked so cool because it reminded me of the split screen co-op of old Splinter Cell games. Splinter Cell
mm,
Chaos Theory and Double Agent, look it up, like look at videos of that and tell me if they're not look the same, kind of like the same
yeah,
vibe of what they were going for. So, but again, I didn't also have anyone to play it with, and I figured that it wouldn't be a game that you want to play with like someone you didn't know, because obviously you can do it online. I think it gives you that option. So,
yeah. I think that it's actually better than playing It Takes Two with someone you don't know because they are strangers in the
mhm,
game. Like they don't know each other, so you kind of you'd be mirroring the unfamiliarity with one another by
mhm.
playing it that way. And do you really
I
trust
can
this other person? And
I can see
you know,
that. Yeah.
so I could see that this would be fun to play either way. It Takes Two, yeah, you want to play that with your significant other or like a really close friend or something for sure.
Mhm.
It makes it really special there. But no, the main thing that I've been playing has of course been Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This game is enormous and crazy, and I really love the first game. I really do. I played so much Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. I have like 150 plus hours in that game. I put a lot of time into it. And that game is way smaller than this one is from what I can tell because I'm like 35 plus hours into this game and I still haven't actually done the first main quest. I've just been exploring and I spend a lot of time playing dice, a lot of dice play time because that's the easiest way to make money is just winning dice games because you're very poor. If you're trying, I mean, you could steal everything. Like you could go and steal horses and sell them and steal goods and whatnot. But like, yeah, I don't really. I try to. I try to play my Henry as he'll take the odd, couple of groschen from the bad guy's treasure chest or from the corpse of the dead person, but I'm really not going around stealing things, which is a change of pace from how I played the last one, where I was just stealing everything. Although I still lockpick every lock that I can because I just really like lockpicking things.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's a really great game. Everyone knows the first main quest is to get into this wedding and continue your mission that you got. Like the whole reason you're out in this game is to deliver a message to the local Lord von Berghoff, and you can't do that for things that happen early on, and your goal is to get that message delivered. And I still haven't even gotten approved to go into the wedding yet, and it's not a spoiler to say there are two maps in this game. Like there's the map that you go to now, and then there's the second map with the main city of the game, and then all the surrounding countryside of that one, and they're both available. Like you don't lose access to the first one. It's not like you can't go back or anything like that. So yeah, this game is enormous, and it's dynamic, and you're fast traveling from Troskowitz to Samine, and all of a sudden you have a bandit attack and you're just murdered, and so you have to reload the game, and so you're like, all right, well I still need to go to Samine, so I'm gonna fast travel to Samine again, and this time you don't have a bandit attack. You come across a random camp on the road full of a knight who was captured by King Sigismund, and ended up being convinced that Sigismund is the right guy for the job, and you actually can challenge him to a duel just because you disagree with him and you're on the side of Wenceslas. It's just there's so many. I've had a couple of repeat events when I failed an event and went to reload it, but in all of my playtime of traveling around, I've never had the same event trigger twice in the game. It's always been a new event, and if it was the same event, it was because I died and didn't actually complete that event. I had to retrigger it somewhere else and in the future. that's how much stuff there is in this game. It's wonderful. I really love it. I know you haven't put too much time into it, Alex, but
I got to, like I promised you and Paul last week, that at least I wanted to try it more, and I only got to the point where you can do alchemy very early, after you go pick some flowers, and you find and you face two people that you can either just kill both of them or just kill one of them, depending on how it goes in your I
didn't kill any of them.
You just send them away?
I fought both of them and they both just ran away from me. I didn't send them away. I fought them, but before I killed either of them, they just dropped their weapons and booked it. Which is funny because I figured that you could do that, but I also figured you could kill them. But what I didn't know is I was watching a stream. I was actually watching a recording of someone else play the game. It was Jess McDonald from GameSpot, the formerly of GameSpot. Now she does What Culture and streams on Twitch and everything. Realizing that she still did stuff was a throwback from forever for me, because I remember as a teenager watching GameSpot news and whatnot. But anyway, so I was just watching a recording that she had done of her first playthrough, and she killed killed one of the guys, and the other guy got away, and I didn't kill any of them. So she goes back to the person who's hosting her, whose place it is, and the person was like, "Oh, can you dig a grave for that body too? Because you already dig a grave for one body." And I didn't do that. That was just dialogue that didn't happen because there was not a second body for me to dig. So I only had one body. I only had the line happen once. It just reacts to what you do or don't do.
And that's the thing that impresses me most, because I feel like we have lost games that you can have this kind of conversations. How do you approach this? How do you do this? Wait, that happened? And things like that. I feel like that kind of conversation has been more what you see in Elden Rings, of oh, I was suddenly walking down this hill and I fell off, and suddenly I fell off into this weird portal that sent me to a different dimension with this massive body. I feel that's the kind of conversation we tend to get with quote unquote dynamic games right now, even though that was not dynamic. It's just kind of a big world full of secrets, and I feel we not many people do that kind of RPG with such minute level of detail when it comes to actions, consequences, and things like that. I feel like people have walked away from that kind of game, and
it's because we're getting to the point where the cost of developing
it's so high.
Games the way they look is so high that the added cost of the dynamism is outlandish, and that's why you have games like Baldur's Gate 3 that are so dynamic that everyone loses their minds, because it's an amazing game of the generation quality game right there. And then you have Kingdom Come follow up with it 2 years later, 18 months later, with a similar kind of dynamism, and it's just crazy
and in
that
a
they
more
managed to
tradition,
do it.
in a more kind of traditional game, instead of like a CRPG being adapted like in console and all that. So it feels kind of like what I wanted the next generation of like a Skyrim or a Bethesda style RPG to feel and look, because it's like, oh wow, I remember how impressed I was back with seeing Skyrim back in 2011. At least it's kind of that size,
right? And the Radiant Quest system and all of that,
and all of that, and then like how dated that looks now, and feeling like we haven't gotten that, and then like seeing something like Cyberpunk kind of do that. But that's the thing, like Cyberpunk is a really great that kind of game, but I don't feel it's that dynamic of a game. I feel like it's more
haven't played it yet.
Yes, and that's the thing, like I have played it, and even some of the things I feel like it's very delineated, and what it does is not as reactive or dynamic as even what I've seen here with Kingdom Come. What Cyberpunk does is make that kind of game really pretty, like with such high production values and all that, that you don't care that you cannot lift a little piece of paper like something like in a table.
There's a charm to Kingdom Come Deliverance too, that a lot of games don't have in them, because of its origins as that like kind of AA, but still somehow the most AAA game that's been released in a really long time. It's so weird that this game was made for $40 million, and
insane. Absolutely insane.
So I mean, it's still janky. It definitely has that Eurojank level to it, but it's such high quality Eurojank somehow.
Yeah, it's like the most minimal Eurojank of the Eurojank genre, basically.
I would love to see a full AAA game. I mean, I know people talk about ballooning budgets and concerns like that, but I want to see that $300 million game that does this. Because there are clunky aspects to this game. I like the combat system. I think combat's actually really fun, and it's actually easier than the first game, which we talked about, I think, on last week before I'd gotten too far into it. But it's easier, but it still has clunky aspects to it. The targeting is a little bit off. Fighting wolves is a little bit weird. The system of like the alchemy is it's so fun to do alchemy and to like make the potions, but making the potions has its own quirks in that like you have to do the action before you can queue up the next action. So it's like, oh, I hit the button to pull the bellow, and then I want to flip the hourglass, but I hit the hourglass button too close to the bellow, so I have to hit the hourglass button again. It's just that little bit of slowness to it that I understand is just a part of this, but I still really love this game. It's so much fun to just explore and see the different options and use the speech checks and the dialogue checks to get things done. Like, just one example, it's a little bit later in the game that I've been playing, but you could probably do it really anytime you wanted to if you got there. I had to go and save this person who had gone missing, and I save him, but it turns out his horse is missing as well. And you can get him, and the guy breaks his ankle, so you have to like go and get the horse for him. But when he says, hey, will you go and get the horse for me, you can actually say, are you sure you want to lay out here in the woods with a broken ankle? What about the wolves? And then he'll be like, okay, forget the horse, it's not worth it. You can just abandon the horse to its fate. Like, you can just do that. And I did that just to test it out to see if it would work or not, and it did. It's like, he's like, oh no, and then he just brings you back to the house that, to the base where you got the quest, and they're like, oh, thank you for saving me. Too bad about the horse. But I went and reloaded, and then I did the horse and went back and did it, and then it was like, thanks for saving me, and you saved my horse, here's a bonus. Like, that's the kind of thing that it does, is it gives you that extra little something of acknowledgement of what's going on, and it's really cool. I love this game. I'm really into it. I am going to keep playing it, but obviously it will now have to live alongside a second game that is coming out in a mere 6 hours and 27 minutes. What might that be?
Yeah, from where we're recording. That will be Monster Hunter Wilds, a game that now I can say that I've been playing since literally February 5th. Like the day the second beta was posted, I got a code for it because I was part of the I like to call it the Travis Northup Suicide Squad. That is like people that like join him and in his many escapades of trying to do multiplayer games and needing people to play with and all of that. technically Travis didn't review this game. His boss was gonna review it, and he was asking for people to play because he's right now on his honeymoon. So he brought me and his other buddy Ben, who's like a dev from Gunfire Games, to kind of like play in early and kind of assisted. I was not gonna review that game originally, because right away, like you can go read my review over at seasongaming.com. I ended up reviewing it. It just so happened that I was given permission to use what was given as a way to like do a review, because we were not gonna get that for embargo. So that's why I ended up reviewing, because I didn't want to, like, I had not signed up to review that one. We have a literal Monster Hunter like connoisseur in our season gaming group.
He's an addict. He's a Monster Hunter addict.
Yeah, the very definition of addict. I literally like used a lot of his knowledge when writing what I ended up writing. That he let me do it because they wanted to have the site. They wanted the site to have like an embargo thing. So I was like, cool, I tell you, that was one of the hardest reviews I've ever written, because I've never written anything out of like a position of total ignorance and authority. Because like I like reviewing what I know. It's kind of like you reviewing Dragon Age. Like, you know Dragon Age really well, so you have an authoritative way to approach that game. I was encouraged to try to approach it as kind of like the newbie. And what's funny about Wilds is that it feels like Capcom made that game for me, for that kind of people. The Monster Hunter series has always been known for being like one of the most hardcore series that exists, because it's like very dense in systems and very intentionally clunky and obtuse in its mechanics. That is like just super hardcore people that sunk their teeth into a lot of its complexities and eccentricities. Always kind of like dig that series like early on. The more entries have come in, Capcom has been like slowly sanding up a lot of those kind of like complications, that by the time we got to World, it was kind of like at the time the best they had gotten at keeping the identity of the series strong while letting more people kind of join in. Obviously, like, I feel I can speak with you, Joe. You joined in with Worlds, right? That's the one that you jumped in. Yeah, I did. Right. I did too. I tried the PSP games, couldn't do it. I tried the 3D.
See, I didn't. I never tried any others. I never had any interest in Monster Hunter. I had an acquaintance in high school who loved the Monster Hunter games, and I remember him bringing his PSP to high school, playing the
similar
games
to my experience.
But I never actually had any interest in trying them myself. I also had a broken PSP. My right button on the PSP never worked. That's the reason I didn't play Birth by Sleep until it was on the PS3, because I couldn't. I literally could. The trigger did not work. It just eventually stopped working.
And the especially with Birth by Sleep, you need to do the R. That's the lock on button, and you have to do a lock on it a lot in that game. So,
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I never played any of those Monster Hunter ones, but I did jump in on World, like you said, and I do agree. I never, because I don't have that prior history, I never would have said, oh, this is a really obtuse, hard to get into game. I thought it was very welcoming. It was complicated, but it was I understood it. Granted, 20 some odd years of gaming history of gaming experience, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was Capcom's first attempt at really kind of like being like, okay, how can we like really expand this? Because obviously, like, Monster Hunter got big when it got to the because it started on PS2. And as well, I was just talking with Paul today, like, separately, that he was watching Maximilian to play MH1 like one time, and you attack with R3. You had to click R3 to attack. It was that kind of obtuse way back then. And then I was in to
be fair, it's still a little obtuse in the attack being circle and triangle.
Yes. And I've kind of like I've kind of now understood why, the more I played it, why they chose those buttons more, kind of like in the way that it's meant to be it's not meant to be like an action game per se, like a Devil May Cry, let's say, which obviously is also triangle circle. If you play those games, they love their triangle and circle kind of like attack buttons. But it's more one that you have to be very deliberate of when to use your movements. And back in the day, like in the PSP games, like, movement felt so stiff, and I felt like my attacks were always kind of like attacking thin air, while my monster was kind of like jumping and crisscrossing around me and attacking. I was like, oh, no, I can't do this. I was like just too raised on the God of War school of combat system, kind of like at that point that I just like something snappy. That's the thing that I love about God of War. Is like, it's this one of the snappiest character action based it is. Like, Monster Hunter is not a character action based game, but besides that tangent, like, slowly they've been on clenching the butt of the series, I would call it. Like, it feels like characters feel like more nimble the further it kind of gone in, And World was kind of like that first step where I feel like it still had its hardcore slant where there are many points where, yes, like if you wanted to advance, like you may get like skill checked by a monster where you need to like get specific gear or maybe armor that will have like certain resistances and things like that to then be able to succeed. And then when Rise came in 2021, I kind of learned this like listening to hearing to some of the experts. Like what's interesting about Rise and World is that they were done by different teams. Like the Rise team was made by the people that made the PSP games and the 3DS games.
They're basically making basically a mobile port again.
Exactly. So. Yeah, and that's kind of like why Rise feels more like that. Rise feels like it's still very overly complicated and has too many menus to start, but it's a game that it's very designed for the quick pick up and play, like the quick missions, like and the snappiness of how you go into like your town and going out into the world and things like that. It's like way snappier than it is in World. You have like your big hub base, many conversations that you can have with like different handlers and things like that are just called commander, third handler, and things like that. They don't even have the names.
Silly. Silly.
They only had those titles. I keep note of that because I feel like Wilds definitely is like a marriage of both Worlds and Rise in certain ways, because like it still continues kind of like the grandness of that World introduced, because World was the first game that introduced kind of like massive play spaces, because it used to be very segmented. Oh, you're in section 1 and 2. To move to section 3, you go through a loading screen and things like that. It's like it at least connected all of that, and Wilds has gone like fully now that there is no loading at all when you go back to your camp. There is no loading at all when you go to like a different biome.
So the camp is a single. Yeah. Like you can just walk up to camp.
Yeah, you can just walk up into camp and walk out.
What about the hub? Can you just like walk up to your hub?
That's the basic load and talk at the hub. The hub has become like a camp that you just kind of walk in and out. And the only thing that you kind of slowly load in is when you're like in that little tent that you go in and do like the little menu. Yes, you go in and there's like a tiny loading screen, but the actual act of going from a hub into the world, it's like the most seamless it's ever been.
So you're not calling your wyvern and hooking onto them and being flown over there anymore. You're just jumping on your horse.
Yeah, you just work into your. It's called a secret. The only time that you use a wyvern is if you want a fast travel. If you want to have fast travel, you go into that quick loading where he calls the wyvern and sends you everywhere. Like that's there, but it's
how do the different biomes work? Because in World it was each zone was up, it was the camp was the hub was its own thing, and then each zone was its own biome. Like the desert zone was the desert biome, and the forest was the forest. There really wasn't much variation. So how does the differentiation in biomes work now? Yeah,
so obviously there's kind of like your frozen biome, your desert biome, which is where it starts. If you play the beta, you've already seen that desert biome. There's kind of like a swampy forest that you go to, but like you just literally like smoothly go into this biome just by just walking in. Like
so does it feel like, is there like a hard line cut off where you're like, okay, I'm in the winter biome now, or does it like slowly, smoothly transition over?
In the ways when I stopped when I was not doing the constant fast travel, it was like slowly, smoothly going into like the different places. Like they really thought about that. And the best part of doing that is that it caught back a lot of kind of like the mechanical, the circular mechanical kind of like how can I say this? Gameplay loop of back in base, pick the mission, go eat, maybe go build the next like see where you are like in gear, depart, go to the loading screen and start the mission. It's like you. Like for example, you now like you know how you can cook the food usually when you're when you're outside just like you cook like a piece of meat and you have to like make sure you cook it right and then you just eat it. Like the actual cooking animation that was reserved for like the palicos they eat it, is like they have given you that mechanic so you can prepare like the full meals while you're like out and about.
But the palicos will still do it, right? You can still have the cute cats cook your meals.
No, you cook it yourself now. The palico, your palico companions next to you, they. No more cooking for the palicos. That's one of the biggest losses of them giving you this mechanic.
The cat's cooking the food.
It was one of the coolest things.
Not even in the hub?
Nope, not even in the hub because you cook your meals. So,
lame.
Yeah, they're like
7 out of 10.
8 out of 10. But that's the thing. Concessions have been made because of the mechanics they've given you because of that newfound freedom. Like starting quests, because you have like a quest giver with you. Her name is Alma. She's the handler for this game. She comes with you when you're kind of going around. You can talk to her and like start a optional quest or start a main quest. or even just kind of like randomly start a hunt if you're kind of going around and then suddenly you see like a Chematrice, this like big beast that is like a rooster dinosaur that has fire and thing, like right in front of you, and be like, I want that, and you start slashing it, and automatically like starts like a side quest where you have to kill that beast for like the hunt and things like
Are there
that.
still time limits on hunts?
Yes, the 15-minute hunts. Yes, it's
Hate
still
that. That's the most annoying thing.
especially
That is
like
the worst. That is literally the worst part. I think that and the limited number of feints are the worst parts of Monster
yeah,
Hunter. Because
yeah, you still have 3 feints.
I hate wasting time. That is the worst thing in the world for games, is feeling like you're wasting your time. That's Kingdom Come's biggest problem too, is that you feel like you waste time if you don't save constantly and you die. I
Mm.
hate wasting time, and Monster Hunter feels like a huge waste of time when you fail a hunt.
Yeah, especially because the bosses can be really long, and that's kind
And
of the,
hard.
yes. And good thing you mentioned it, because this was one of the big concerns that I was having, because I was playing with a lot of Monster Hunter fanatics that were reviewing this game too. Their big concern was that this game was too easy. That the monsters, like they like, at least like in the campaign side of things, they never got like skill checked, or like they got carded, as it were. Like when you got like you get knocked and then you get carted away by the palicos into like your echoes around camp for you to kind of like restart the thing.
Yeah.
That I feel like initially it doesn't feel as much of a waste of time, because I feel like the monsters now go quicker, because they either go down quicker because mechanically the game is so much better than it used to be because of the little enhancements that they've done. I feel like the biggest addition they did for this game's combat is a new emphasis on bleed points. When you're like fighting a big monster and constantly hitting it often, eventually like you have them like you do like a bleed point, that then if you hold an L2, that now that's when how you used to aim like your kind of like your grappling thing. uh Now that mechanic has been added to you being able to like swing your weapon and kind of like move the camera while you're aiming to kind of like redirect your attack. And that helps a lot in not feeling like you're constantly like attacking out of thin air, and allows you to keep center at the monster, even though this still has the tap L1 to kind of recenter the camera on the monster that you're hunting.
Would you say that it's easy to spot the wounds? Because in
Yes.
my playing of the beta, I was like, I think that's a wound. I think that's what I'm supposed
You
to
always
hit
have
right
to be, yeah, you always have to hold L2 for the wounds to always like oh crap, you're colorblind, I forgot.
Yeah.
so like I don't know what color it gets, because it's like a reddish orange the thing that happens.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. It's the whole time I was playing, it just never, like, I saw like damaged monster skin, I guess that was my indication that it was a wound. But
yeah, it feels like it's highlighted when you're like focusing on L2. Like you're not gonna see it if you're not holding L2 and just attacking. Like you'll never know that.
Okay.
You always have to be holding L2 to kind of like have that highlighted, because then when you know that place is a bleed, that's a good place for you to like focus on keeping damaging it. And then even pressing R1, which does like a special like focus strike that does like a special animation that breaks that wound and does extra damage, because you didn't have that in previous Monster Hunter games. It's like that thing that does extra damage. When you imagine like I like using the dual blade and like attacking really fast and dancing around
too,
and I love what it does when you do the L2 R1 in this game when you're a dual blade user, because then like you're flying around the and attacking the monster around, and if you have plenty bleed points, you can pop them all at once and super quick.
That's cool.
And do it like if you're flying around. And by doing that, I feel like the monsters go down much quicker. At least in like in the section of the game that I played, like in that initial area, that even though it still has the timer and all that, I feel like they took into account that is like the bosses can be like a big long commitment. Cool. It's why you mentioned the PlayStation Portal. I actually got a Portal recently because I know that grindy kind of games I kind of want to have playing with myself when I'm like watching like a TV show, and this is the kind of game that does that. I went back to play Monster Hunter Rise because I had the console version of Rise, and initially I didn't like it in console because it was clearly a game made for the Switch, and its UI looks horrendous with the big text in the TV, but somehow works well in a handheld. That I was like, oh yeah, I get it now. This was a game meant for like a smaller screen,
right.
and
well, you had Iceborne on the screen earlier when you.
Yes, I've been testing, and I've been testing both because I've been kind of I need to see because it's been so long. I played World in 2018, and then we went back to Iceborne, so that's why I'm like, now that I'm kind of like I'm in the Monster Hunter kick, I kind of want to play all this 3 and kind of see.
Be careful. Yeah,
I know burnout.
Monster Hunter burnout before the game evens out and we get our hunting going.
Yes, that's kind of like what's been funny because I've been playing this for almost the entirety of this month. I've been like I had this game. This is the earliest I've ever had a game. It's kind of wild to think about it because like we tend to get like a week early. Obviously, you got about it for like 2 weeks,
Yeah.
2.5, probably. Like I got it like almost a month, like almost entirety of February. I had this game.
Yeah,
So
we got avowed on January
30th,
20.
29th.
Yeah, 29th. We got it on the 29th, and then the embargo for it was on the 13th.
Yeah, so you
So
have like a 2.5 week period.
2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks
Mhm.
and a day. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's still
Obviously less
pretty.
time because we had to make the video and all that. But yeah, the actual time ahead that we had the code was a little over 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like the other game that I had for a long time was Dragon Quest, the one that killed my console. Like that was the reason when my console died.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like still having it that long, and especially for a game that's so reliant on. Now it's gonna have like big communities. You get into lobbies that can house up to 100 players. They will
Yeah.
each like all of those
Is
players like
there's no cross play, or
there
is there
is.
no cross progression?
There is cross play, no cross progression, and that
Okay.
sucks because I kind of wanted like I was hoping this was gonna have cross progression because I was gonna be like, okay, this uses Capcom's ID thing, which sucks, but it uses it. I have Capcom ID set up on both my consoles, so I was hoping I was like, okay, I'm gonna do all my progress on Xbox, and by the time the game launches, I'm gonna switch over to PlayStation and just continue there. No, I won't be able to. I have to restart, but I'm not too worried about that because the campaign of this game is short. The campaign for Worlds, I looked it up. It's like 40 hours. The
Yeah,
campaign,
it's long. It's fun.
yeah, the campaign for Wilds is 15.
Really?
Yes, because
That's
there's
a little
no
disappointing.
because they wanted to send you to the end game much quicker. That's why like at least like its initial playthrough is as friction free as I've ever seen one of these games be because there's more of a story focus in this game. Like you mentioned how dumb it was that there was like no names in any of the characters that you talked in your camp in World. Now everyone has a name. There's like they're actually legit characters that you interact with. They even accompany you on quests. The SOS system, how you can like send an SOS and send it and ask for other maybe online players that are around. They have made it so that you can call an SOS and your crew from the hub is with you on the fights. So you don't even need the like a full crew to like fight out. If you're for some reason find yourself having trouble with a monster, that you can have that NPC crew like that is characters that is either your guild handler, your actual quest handler, or like your kind of like blacksmith. They're with you and you talk with them. You sometimes do quests for them. They have made a point of trying to give more of a personality to the characters, even though the story I wouldn't say is like that much different from what you expect out of a Monster Hunter. Like it's still kind of going into like a new land and there's like this massive elder beast and blah blah blah. What they do to try to focus how you go through this world like through the eyes of a character that you find, it's kind of like that's like your POV character that kind of takes you through this land. I think it's both a smart way of trying to like more smoothly integrate the campaign side of things for both storytelling, because I feel at least it tries to tell the story, even though it's not the greatest in the world. It tries to tell in a way that the other games didn't. That the other
good.
Oh yeah, because the other games, I feel like any story content, quote unquote, is more like a means to an end. It was just more to giving you an objective. Like you have the general objective, like we're in this new world, we're taming this new world, we're investigating these new monsters, go hunt them and kill them. That's kind of like that. That's kind of what it was. So there's a little bit more in when it comes to story that they added to Wilds, that I kind of understand why the campaign is also shorter. I feel they kind of wanted to give a game that felt satisfying to complete if you just want to do like a campaign.
And but see, that's my concern. That's actually the concern I have, is because I actually played World for a lot longer than just the campaign. Like I did the whole campaign and I was involved in the hunts and I really liked doing it, but I don't always do that. I definitely am a campaign kind of person. And so for me, World is a great value because you do have like a 40-hour campaign that even if I decided to stop when I was done, I wouldn't have regretted buying it. So Wilds is a little concerning that if I'm done with the campaign in 15 hours, then I don't, the only incentive to go forward is just the grind. It's just the power up grind.
And the thing is that it's not just power up grind. I've been noticing that every 5 HR hunter ranks that you raise here, there's new story stuff that happens. That is kind of like it almost serves like a separate kind of like story I don't know how far that goes personally, because I kind of didn't want to like super invest too like I said, I didn't want, I played on Series X. That's not the system that I wanted to play this game in, so I didn't want to like fully invest in the end game
Yeah.
too much, because I wanted to do it like on on the PS5 Pro. And even in the things that I've seen, it's like there's new quests that you get, because like your entire you're sent as like a separate expedition crew to see this forbidden land. And then like after you're done with the campaign, quote unquote, and roll the first set of credits, the entire crew kind of joins you in, and that entire crew kind of like gives you like new story stuff that they're like finding of the new monsters and things like that. I don't know how far that goes, but I'm noticing that that's kind of like maybe one of the carrots in the stick that they're adding for every 5 levels that I improve.
That might be enough. As long as the hunter rank doesn't take too long to gain, as long as I'm not doing like 10 hunts per level.
Yeah, I've gotten there with 3 or 4 hunts, like a big hunts. So it's like and even some of the quick side quests, like go kill 8 of these little monsters. Cool. That's gonna give you a hunter rank.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I just before we started this, I pre-ordered the game so that I could have it preloaded and ready to go, and maybe get a few hours in tonight. So that's my hope, is to get a little bit of playtime in before I depart on the airplane in the morning. And I'll be back, Saturday night, and I'll be hopefully, back and playing and whatnot. We'll see.
Yeah, and I tell you, like it's the most fun. I personally, like with the Monster Hunter games I play, and I've played all of them to the PSP. This is the most fun I've had with one of these games. Just in the movement around of moving around, and the combat, and the way of the swords feel, and like the grandiosity of like seeing the animal biomes and things. Just kind of seeing like how naturally the monsters just go around the world. Like you could literally spend time just kind of walking around, like gathering resources, and just watch the monsters kind of live their life. And I love when there's like weather effects.
Is it
that
dynamic?
Happen. There's a little dynamics, because it's so cool. If you go to like a big herd, you'll see like if there's like a massive storm, you'll see like the mother bees kind of like cover their little cubs, like and things like that. You're like, interesting. You can even follow, if you need dung, which is like the poop, you can kind of follow them around, and they're just gonna leave it there for you, because they kind of have to like go on their kind of dynamic way of just living their life. And I feel that's where they put a lot of the
slaughter
effort.
Them.
Exactly. I feel they put a lot of attention to detail to that to make the world feel very lived in a way that Worlds was kind of getting there. I feel this feels like this is what we wanted to do with Worlds, but our technology was not allowing us. Now Wilds is now allowing us to kind of fulfill those ideas. At the same time, it has come at a big focus of we need to get more people in. Yes, we sold 20 million copies. What if we can sell 25? Like, why we can bring in even more people? And I know that's right now going to be the biggest talking point that a lot of the Monster Hunter community is going to have, that they will feel slighted right now with the launch offerings, that they're not going to feel as challenged like as they're probably known to, because it's like yes, you can still like hunt specific parts of monsters to build specific part of gear, whatever sword you want, or whatever like blowgun or bow or whatever you decide to pick. You can like get cool looking armor like from the beast that you get that looks pretty sick. I love the one that I have from one of the later monsters that you slay in the campaign. It's like it looks so white. You'll see it in a screenshot that I'm gonna send you. But it's like a lot of people are so used to like, man, I'm gonna be hunting this Rathalos for a while because I absolutely need this claws to build this thing, because that's what I'm gonna need to beat this whatever other monster that is kind of like blocking me for like the next progression, things like that. From like what I heard of the people that were farther away from me, like in Hunter ranks, that were like really investing in the end game, it took a long time before they even felt like the challenge that they used to feel. So that's why I'm like, yeah, it's clear who they're aiming this for. They're trying to make Monster Hunter more of a mass market appeal, and that's always a gamble, because it's like you made like, to be fair to Worlds, it still had hardcore elements to it. It still was really hard in like later on.
Especially the DLC. The DLC. I heard super final boss in Iceborne. I couldn't. I played it way too late. All the groups of people had
moved on.
They'd moved on, and the groups that were left were not. I couldn't do it.
Yes,
couldn't get it done, which is okay.
Exactly, and I know that's kind of like the hold that people have, that yes, if they tune it like too easy right now, there's a game that's gonna be here for a while. They can, and they're already talking about updates for April. That was at the State of Play.
World got 2 years of updates, I think 2 or 3 years. It got a lot.
Yes.
including the expansion. So it got a lot for sure.
And then the focus moved to Rise, which I heard was even incomplete. Like apparently Rise launched incomplete. It didn't even have the end of its campaign. Like when it launched, that kept being patched in. So obviously that game came out during. Yeah, it was interesting learning a lot of stuff from like the Monster Hunter hardcore community. I tell you, they know a lot. It felt like I was getting like dissertations of like some of the things that they were explaining to me of how this is different, is gonna be better for some, is gonna be irritating for others. And it's funny when I read the reviews around, it's like it's funny that the one common complaint you're gonna hear is that this feels too easy for a Monster Hunter game. And I'm really curious how other people in our orbit will feel about that. I'm curious to hear about
well, we've got a whole lot of people who are going to be playing it. So
yes, people already, like our buddy Eric got his copy with a broken street date. He already started playing because the servers are live. I got in like into a 100-person lobby. It was wild seeing that many people in the hub because like, oh, why are you here? Like, damn, this is like so packed. Damn.
Yeah.
And what's funny during this kind of lobbies, like, you know how you post a quest, like when you go to like a quest gear, like if everyone at any point posts as SOS or like or post like one of the event quests or whatever, it's like being in those kind of like super packed lobbies, you're always gonna have something to do if you just kind of join in on a group of people. I feel they really have honed in on a lot of the stuff, even though a lot of it's still very obtuse. I don't know why there's like 4 separate friend lists in this game. I'm like, why? It's like this is a game that has eased off a lot of friction in so many areas, but then there's spots where you're like, okay, you've made everything else easy, but this is so backwards. Like it's like what Colin Moriarty likes to say, like getting a lot of details right and then getting some very little details that are very vital wrong. It kind of feels like that in spots where I'm like, oh man, especially when you know that was kind of like the goal of trying to make this a much more approachable Monster Hunter. But
well, it wouldn't be Monster Hunter if something wasn't stupid.
Yes. And there's a lot of stupid in this game, but I tell you, it's like the most that it's like at least it's gotten me back into like without Wilds I wouldn't have gone back to Rise to just kind of see it, because Rise I feel is a little bit more hardcore in being more old school Monster Hunter. And I was like playing some of the longer boss battle. I carded 3 times in like a 1-star like multiplayer monsters. I was like, I get it now. I see why the Monster Hunter like hardcore are like feeling worried about like what they see with Wilds, because I see where they're coming from with their most recent entry. But I also like I kind of like get the hook now. But what I like about I feel is gonna be I equate it to like what Final Fantasy 16 did for me, that it allowed me to re-enter the world, that then made me go back to other entries, not kind of like understanding some things, or at least more understanding of the more of an affinity to the franchise that maybe like makes everything kind of clicks. I feel Wilds is gonna do that too. To many people, and I can't wait to see what people think about it. I got my portal ready. I can't wait to see it. Like I can also first I'm gonna see how it looks on the Pro, because this has been like touted as the killer app for the Pro right now, because if you play on a base PS5 or on Series X, if you're planning on playing on performance mode, beware. It's a very blurry game. Better than the beta.
Question for you.
Yes.
One more question for you, and then we'll move on. Okay.
Yes, go for it.
Are you going to get the platinum?
Here's interesting thing. I saw a band, the other guy that joined it, he basically got all the achievements. Like he got all of them. 200 hours. Wow. He spent 200 hours pre-release, and he got it yesterday. And I'm like, now that I know he got it, maybe I can ask him like quick, like a kind of like, because think about it, he got this without guides, and to me, like the biggest thing for this game, the fact that I didn't need a guide for most of it, I feel says a lot, because this is a game very popular for like, I don't understand this, like let me look it up, like Google it, like that's how World was, because World was like, no, I really like this one, I really want to understand it, I need a guide.
The reason I didn't get the World Platinum is it was too grindy. Like you had to grind so many research levels and this and that and this. Like it's too much. I mean, that was World came out just around my journey into getting platinums, because that was the same year that Assassin's Creed Origins came out in 2017 and all that. So that was like as I was dipping my toe into the platinum world, and so I probably wouldn't have gotten it even now, but there was better chance now than before, but it's just so grindy. When I looked into it, I was like, no.
Capcom games tend to be very grindy. That's why I have never pursued a Resident Evil Platinum, because it's like get all S ranks in this, finish this game with this amount of steps taken. And things like they're so I feel like they like being very obtuse when it comes to like doing those kinds of achievements that I tend to not do it. The fact that this guy did it without a guy like in the pre-release environment, like doing that, and also because he was banging himself against the wall trying to find where to get some crowns, specific monsters to get things like that. I feel that's things that will come with guides, and when you're pointed in the right direction, that's gonna help you. Maybe through that I will do it because I want to get it from games that I really like. And right now, Monster Hunter Wilds is my game of the year so far. I don't feel as strongly as I felt with Rebirth around this time last year. By the way, happy anniversary, Rebirth, because your game launched on the 29th. We have to say it right now because we'll never be able to decide when our anniversary is. Like, I don't feel as strongly as I did last year when I played it. I was like, this is gonna be hard to beat for me. But it's like easy the most fun I had with that game. Like so far, that it's so much that I'm gonna restart it on a new console. If I didn't find it fun enough, I would have just kept be like, I have it on Xbox. I'll stick here.
Right, or you just wouldn't play it anymore because you beat it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm moving on. But I'm like, it's like we still have a long time for AC Shadows. We're gonna talk a little bit about Shadows later today.
Not that long, less than a month.
Yeah, less than a month now. It's like
3.5 weeks.
It's so close. I can smell it now. Close. It's very, very, very close. So it's like, I feel this can be the game that'll be like, okay, I feel this is gonna take the next 3 weeks of my life. Like not playing with
the 20th, right?
Yes. So it's like 3 weeks from now. Like
I need to make sure that I have my building take that package in for me. I don't want it stolen. And
because you got the physical for that one, right?
I got the collectors, I
definitely show me when I want to see it, like in show the collector goodies whenever like you get it here.
For sure.
You can go read my review from a perspective of someone that was more of a newbie. From a newbie's perspective, if you're looking into getting into Monster Hunters, absolutely get Wilds. And then if you find Wilds too easy, go back to World and Rise. I feel this is gonna be a good it's gonna get your foot in the door, and it's gonna
the only reason I would say that would be a little bit tougher is because of that key online component and whether or not you're going to have a community to play with in those older games. So just be wary of that if you're going to go back
100%.
And try them.
100%.
Don't buy them at full price. Get them for like $10 or $20. You can
which happens often. They've been selling both Worlds and Iceborne together for $11. So they've been proliferating a lot.
Yeah, you can get them cheap. So don't pay full price for those games anymore because you're not going to have the community to make it worth it. I bought Wilds earlier today. Like I said, it's hopefully done downloading, sitting over there.
It's a small download. It's like 55 gigs, so small download. So it should be ready.
I've got my down and up as a gig, so I'm not worried about it. It's been a while.
It probably put it download before we started recording. It was already downloaded.
Pretty close to it. I'm sure. I really wasn't looking at it, but yeah, I bought that stuff because I'm excited. I really like Monster Hunter World, and I had really just been waiting for the new true sequel because I was not interested in Rise. I looked at that and I went, no. And then I never touched it.
And to be fair,
I was never even tempted to buy Rise because I was so turned off when I saw it, and I was so burnt out from World. I was like, I'm just gonna wait till they do a real one.
It's going from World that is like this franchise finally like growing in scale that it had not seen before, and going back into like the more mobile stuff that people were so used to. A lot of people that love Worlds didn't like Rise, or didn't quite click with Rise.
I believe it.
You have to be like in that specific mindset. Like I played Rise initially on it was given on Game Pass, so I tried it and I was like, this is not Worlds. It's like and it had too many tutorials, and it was literally until I played it on this damn PlayStation Portal that I was like, it's because it's this kind of game. I get it now. And I like it that way because it's like, I would say like Rise mechanically is probably the most quote unquote like snappy of the three that I played the most, which is World, Wilds, and this one. Wilds definitely has the weight of World. It's just with more kind of like verticality in what you can do. But Rise is like super snappy. It's like a more cartoony game. So I feel like the animations is like playing with the dual sword on Rise. It's a dance. It's a literal dance. I was like, oh, this is like super fast, damn. And I went back to like a dual sword on Wilds when I tried it today when I was playing with the big lobbies, and I was like, yeah, you're fast, but you're not as fast because you have more of a weight. You have more like it's because of your visual style that it just feels different. But the grandiosity of Wilds makes up for maybe not feeling as snappy as Rise, and also the mechanics of just being able to aim no matter when, like when you're slashing and then holding L2 and then moving the camera to kind of like just readjust a little bit, helps a lot in easing the frustration of its stiffness. So yeah, you can go read my review over at seasongaming.com. We didn't do a video this time, and I'll be over on Sunday at the Season Gaming Bitcast with Elu. We're gonna talk about this game, so look forward to that.
If you're be on the show,
I'm gonna be on the show. I got the invite today, so
cool.
Look forward for my thoughts compared to the true Monster Hunter simp that's gonna be in that show.
So it's gonna be you and Elu with Hogan and
yes, it's gonna be like cool. a four team. So see if you can catch it.
I look forward to getting there at some point in time in my podcast backlog.
Absolutely. So, and now we move towards the headlines, Joe, because I feel quiet this week feels so long is because so many big stuff happened. Like, and it's so many news. I'm like, it's like, all of this happened.
A lot happened, but also I don't really have a lot to say on
most, right?
Most of it.
Yeah, that's why. Hey, maybe shorter episode. We'll see. But I would have hoped that you have something to say about this first one. That even put a story link for us. Warner Brothers cancels Wonder Woman game and closes 3 studios. So I'm gonna use a reference for the IGN story by Rebecca Ballantyne. So Warner Bros. Is canceling its planned Wonder Woman game and shutting down 3 studios: Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB San Diego, according to Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier. Schreier broke the news on Blue Sky. It was 2 days ago, followed by the release of a full report on Bloomberg. Shortly after Schreier's report, WB confirmed the shutdowns to Kotaku in a statement. It's a long one. I'm going to read it. We have had to make some very difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises: Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones. After careful consideration, we're closing 3 of our development studios: Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Bros. Games San Diego. This is a strategic change in direction and not a reflection of these teams or the talent that consists within them. The development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game will not move forward. Our hope was to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible for the iconic character, and unfortunately this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities. This is another tough decision as we recognize Monolith's storied history of delivering epic fan experiences through amazing games. We greatly admire the passion of the 3 teams and thank every employee for their contributions. As difficult as today is, we remain focused and excited about getting back to producing high-quality games for our passionate fans and developed by our world-class studios and getting our games business back to profitability and growth in 2025 and beyond. Earlier this year, another Bloomberg report suggested Wonder Woman was in trouble after rebooting and switching directors in early 2024. This came amid larger struggles at the company's gaming division, including layoffs at Rocksteady, the lukewarm reception of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and the shutdown, and the shutdown of Multiverses. And even more recently, WB Games has appeared to undergo a restructuring of sorts as longtime games head David Haddad announces his departure from the company, and rumors circulated that the division might be sold off. Specifically, this move represents a blow to WB's DC Universe connected gaming efforts. Notably, just yesterday, James Gunn and Peter Safran said in a presentation that it would be a couple of years before the first DCU video game. With this closure, the games industry loses 3 incredibly storied studios. Monolith Productions, which had been working on Wonder Woman, was founded in 1994 and acquired by WB in 2004. It's best known for Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and its sequel Shadow of War, the former of which pioneered the lauded Nemesis system that WB successfully patented in 2021. What's your history with Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and War? Just out of curiosity.
I love both of those games, which is interesting because I've never seen Lord of the Rings, but I have played those games.
That is insane. You have not seen Lord of the Rings? Oh my God, please watch them. You have to watch them. Those movies are really good. Like, for real. Like, they hold up.
I know they are. They're on my list of things to get to eventually.
Put Indiana Jones even further back in the backlog. Watch Lord of the Rings.
Indiana Jones is not on my list. I'm not interested in Indiana Jones.
I know, but because
it's not on my list at all.
Because Paul and I kind of told you should watch it because you only watch the bad one. But more important
Lord of the Rings
stuff
is on my list of things I actually want to see. So, all right, I do have a lot of thoughts on this one here. So, first of all, I want to say, I don't know if you know this, WB, but Wonder Woman is a DC character. Right. So I don't understand how they can cancel a Wonder Woman game and then also say they're going to focus on DC. Clearly, they just mean they're going to focus on Batman. We know that because that's what it means.
Yeah, it always defaults to Batman.
But still, there's a little bit of tact you could have had there.
Mhm.
Second of all, why close Monolith? I don't understand the reasoning behind it, because if you're telling us, if you're telling the people, if you're telling the shareholders that you are committed to developing games in these universes,
And quality games, by the way.
right, quality games in these universes, why close down a studio? Because there's not a lot of the time a company shuts down a studio. They say, oh, they didn't release a game, we can't afford them anymore, or sorry, oh, they released a bad game that didn't make their money, so we can't afford them, or oh, we're just doing budget cuts across the board here. But there's no actual justification presented in these statements in this statement as to why they're shutting the studio down. I can understand shutting down the player first things. The multiverse is bombed in the end, which
Mhm.
whether that's their fault or not, I don't know. I didn't play the game, but
Yeah, and I can
okay,
tell you it wasn't their fault. That was David Haddad and the suits,
yeah.
like what they did.
So
But I'll talk about that. Finish it.
sure. So you want to shut that down because they had a botched game? All right, you shut it down. Move on. And I don't know what the San Diego support studio is. That was a
Mhm.
thing, but you don't need the extra support. All right, fine. But to actually get rid of the studio, a studio that has a storied history, yes, but even in the recent history,
A game of
has
the year
had
contender.
games that were game of the year contenders, exactly what I was going to say, is just a very interesting choice to make, and I don't fully understand why. I really like Shadow of Mordor. I like Shadow of War a little bit less than
Mhm.
Mordor. I, interestingly, I have the platinum in Shadow of
Oh,
War,
or a
not
question:
Mordor.
when do you play War? Because do you play it at launch or do you wait until they patch out all the loot box
I
BS?
specifically waited until they patched out
Same,
all of it.
same.
I waited until they patched out all the loot box stuff, and I waited until the DLC season pass went on sale so that I had all the orc clans available and I played the
Mhm.
full game. And so I played Shadow of War during COVID.
Mhm.
That was my first time playing. I followed Shadow of War's story. I followed the history, all the history of the craziness of it as it was happening. And I was just like, July 2018, I think, is when they removed all of the loot box nonsense out of it. And I said, great, but they never, between July of 2018 and like March of 2020, they never had a sale on the DLC season pass thing. So I just waited until a sale. They finally had a sale, played it, downloaded it, and I was so close to the platinum that I just went for the platinum. And that's the first platinum I got of a game that I didn't really love a ton. I just went
Mhm.
and got the platinum because I was pretty close to it.
And you were like stuck at home, so you needed to kill time, basically.
Yeah, I was waiting for this was before Remake came out, and I wasn't planning on buying Remake because I'd never played 7, and
Mhm.
I was unemployed at the time, and I was trying to be responsible. But then everybody said that Remake was just the greatest thing ever, and they were right, so I
Mhm.
bought it, and I don't regret it at all. But
Yeah,
yeah,
makes
I really enjoyed playing War a fair amount. It just had problems. It had some problems.
yeah, Mordor is definitely the stronger game. I feel like the Nemesis system
Yeah,
was like so on top of the novelty of playing that in 2014. I feel like the Nemesis system was like the first time in that PS4 Xbox One generation where you're looking at something that was being done in the new systems that couldn't be done in the previous systems, as
yeah.
subtle as that was, because it was still an open world game like in the Ubisoft mold. I always said that that game was like Assassin's Creed 2 meets Batman Arkham, that in the Lord of the Rings, in a facsimile of the Lord of the Rings universe, because you watch the Lord of the Rings movies and you realize that those games took a lot of liberties with the lore,
Yeah,
with
and
the
that's
lore.
fine.
Yeah,
They're games. They're fun. I just don't understand why close a studio that
yeah,
has. I mean, I don't think that Monolith ever released a bad game.
never.
This is almost like punishing them for their existence
Yes.
rather than punishing them for failure. And someone fails at something, you scold them, you punish them.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to shut them down because they failed. I can understand even that, but this just seems like
So
cruel.
so I
It's
have
just
a
cruel.
yes, I do have a little follow up to that, because Jason Schreier went to the Kind of Funny Games Daily to kind of give more information, to kind of like elaborate on his story, like on that show. Following a tweet from Okami13 that kind of like bullet pointed it. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna send it to you later, but like as for the details on the Wonder Woman cancellation and closure of Monolith Productions. So Wonder Woman was going to have a nemesis system in reverse where you would talk to people and befriend them as allies. This was eventually scrapped when it was rebooted. Wonder Woman began production in June 2021, but was rebooted in late 2023. The game changed directors and it became a more traditional God of War style action adventure game. Monolith reportedly wasn't interested in making another Lord of the Rings game. After their new original IP was canceled by WB in 2021, Monolith's entire leadership team and many devs quit. Monolith was forced to work on Wonder Woman while rebuilding their staff and leadership team at the same time. Schreier called it an impossible situation, according to his sources. Many of the ex-Monolith team formed cliffhanger games with EA, and they are the ones that are working on the new Black Panther game right now. And Wonder Woman was canceled due to 2024 being a horrible year for WB Games. They lost $300 million both on Suicide Squad, which lost $200 million, and $100 million on both the failure of Multiverses and Quidditch Champions. This plus the reboot that happened like earlier that year is what led to the cancellation, the closure of the studio, and the ousting of the David Haddad CEO. And
Quidditch Champions is a bad game. I just want to say I have it. I played it a little bit. It's not good. It's not a good game. It does not really function well as a Quidditch game. It's not fun. I played it a little bit. I've never put any money in it or anything. But I tried it because I have a buddy that I like to play multiplayer games with, and we both like Harry Potter. It's not great. It's just
it wasn't worth sacrificing. Yeah, it wasn't worth sacrificing Quidditch from Hogwarts Legacy to make it its own game, right? Like that's still dumb fun. There's no Quidditch in the literal Hogwarts game, but yeah. So like, and the multiverses thing, like the most annoying thing about that is that Multiverses was such a success when it came out in 2022 because it was such a surprise. There was hunger for a Smash Bros. Style game because Smash Bros. Had finished their DLC plans like in late 2021 when they released Sora as a final character. That was, and they put a stamp on Smash Bros. There was like final update. This is it. This is the game. We're moving on. So that community was like, man, we missed kind of like the hype cycle of something new, and then the multiverse kind of hit that because like, oh, this is not that bad. Oh, it's free to play. Cool. And then what happened then was that, yes, it was kind of like a beta, but then they started charging money for like microtransactions and things like that. But then that game kind of suffered like a calamitous player drop like later that year, that then they were like, this was a beta. We're taking it off the market. And we're like really, and they waited like a year and a half to put it out again.
See, it's not a bad thing to take it off the market if they're gonna change things and fix things, which, you know, they changed engines and they made big changes to the overall game. I just don't think they handled it right. It has to be
they were bad changes, by the way. Yeah, and the worst part was that the changes were bad. When the game came back in May of last year, a lot of people that were big fans of that game were like, why does the game feel worse than what it was? Like, what do you guys do?
Taking a game offline can be good if you fix it and make it better. But they didn't do that.
Exactly.
And that's a shame. I mean, they didn't have to take it offline. They could have left it online and let it, fix it after, during its live service. It's live service. They could have done that, but
they should have been like, we're not gonna update it right now. It's gonna be there, but like wait until we fix it. But you can still play it. But they took that game off, which was so wild. But it's their own fault. Like they launched it with they relaunched it with no fanfare, and that thing did nothing.
Yeah, and so that's the case. They didn't market it. They did, like you said, no fanfare. They did not do anything to celebrate the relaunch of the game. And now there's no multiverses and no Wonder Woman game. And who knows? The next time we'll see a game with the Nemesis system in it.
Because the patent apparently goes all the way till 2036.
Yeah, so I can talk to that a little bit. Patents have a 20-year lifespan from the moment that they are first made public, essentially. There are caveats and ways to extend that slightly. So technically, the Nemesis system probably is from 2014 when Shadow of Mordor came out. And so I'm surprised that it goes to 36 instead of 34 or 35 in that range. But yeah, so they'll get 15 years worth of protection on it from when they first revealed it, and there's no extending that. Like once that hits, it's open, it's free to everybody. You can't extend a patent. It's not like copyrights that had extensions at different points in history where they're now a copyright is for the certain length of time. Most intellectual property is at this point for a certain length of time. You have your trademarks that are the exception to that rule. They're in perpetuity as long as they are in active use, and your trade secrets, which are considered intellectual property for as long as they are secretive.
Mhm.
But when you're dealing with your more public facing things like copyrights and patents are a flat 20 years, and the copyright is a much longer,
Yeah.
like it's like
So
75. It's like life of the author plus 75 years, or if it's a company, it's like 90 years. It's
it's like what's
crazy.
happening with Mickey, right? Like in the Steamboat
Yeah.
Willie thing, and like what happened with Winnie Pooh and all of that. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and technically, like if people were to go to Warner Brothers, they could like be like, "Hey, we want to use a version of the Nemesis system. We want to pay you royalty to use it." Kind of like they would be able to do that, right? Like if people wanted to use it, like
Yeah, anyone can go and get a license for a piece of intellectual property. So, anyone could have gone to Disney at any point and said, "Hey, we want to license Mickey
yeah,
to do something."
yeah, they were
Kind of
just
like, I
very
mean,
protective.
Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts exists in tandem,
Mm,
because there were license agreements to do that sort of thing. Yeah, so anyone could go to Warner and say, "Hey, that Nemesis system that you're not using, we want to make some money and make a game with it, and we'll give you either a flat fee or we'll give you a cut of the profits of the game or whatever they want to do for it." Then that there's there is a concept in legal entities called patent trolls,
mm-hmm.
and they are companies who exist and subsist solely on purchasing patents for things and then suing people saying that their patents are being violated,
Uh-huh.
and they make money that way. Like they have like, "Oh, you're doing that thing that we have a patent here. You pay up. You got to pay us on that one." And it's very interesting. And there are defenses against that sort of thing that exist out there. I wrote a note on it in law school. That was my topic for my law note. But we
Nice.
don't need to get too deep into that topic. But the point is that Warner could patent troll its own patent, is a way, if you want to be joking about it, because obviously they didn't just buy it. It is their design. And license it out, which they probably should, because it's a really good system and it has a lot of potential that is going to go unrecognized
Yeah.
for the next decade.
And I think what sucks is that think about it. It's like War was 2017. It's been 8 years since we've ever seen like a Nemesis system, and
Mhm.
that's so unfortunate because like one of
Yep.
the few like innovations of that generation got patented by WB being so like overly protected. And I remember that when they announced that they patented it was like in 2017. So I don't know if they probably like patented in 2016 and just made it public in 2017 by the time like War was coming out. I don't know
Yeah,
how
so
that worked. So
it's technically the first use of the patented system. It can depend on a number of factors, but it's
mhm,
usually the first use of the patented system or the first making public of how it's done. And
mhm,
so the patent file date is typically what's used as the first public thing, because most people are not going to release a patented product before the patent has been either approved or at least filed. So usually the patent filing date is the deadline, or not the deadline, is the start date, and
mhm.
then 20 years from there, because you don't get to tack on the extra protection. There's no, "Oh, we filed the patent in 2015, but it wasn't granted until 2021, so now we get the patent in 2021 and we get to have the patent until 2041." Like that's not how it goes. So
Yeah, man, it's like it's so sad. To me, there's
yeah.
such a blunder, and the worst part to me is like them talking about like you mentioned that they want to focus on DC when it's clearly just gonna be Batman. It's clear
Yeah,
that's what
it's
it
just
means.
Batman.
And also to me, the funny is that they say that they want to continue to make games in the Game of Thrones. When have they really made a real Game of Thrones game other
They've got
than
that Kings Road game coming out. What are you talking about?
exactly that mobile garbage that's coming, or more PC mobile garbage? And to me, it's like that reeks of what does our spreadsheet says that it's still something popular, even though they're trying to make games of a
Yeah.
franchise that so out of the zeitgeist, like in a post Game of Thrones season 8 world where yes, House of the Dragon was popular and all that. Like I even feel like
I have to
even
watch season 2 of that still.
yeah, season 2 like really brought down the kind of like the steam of that show like significantly.
Oh, is it not good? That's sad.
It's weaker than season 1. It has a battle that's better than anything that happened in season 1, but that season was very people make the joke that it's like this could have been an email, because it's a season where it's teasing of things that are about to happen and then they leave you they leave you hanging at the
Oh
end
well,
of
I'll
yeah.
get there.
So yeah, maybe wait when season 3 is coming soon, and then just kind of like watch it like all together because it's like
Yeah, I need to get Jing to watch the season one. She loves Game of Thrones. She loved Game of Thrones, but
okay,
she hasn't seen House of the Dragon.
but
So
okay. I don't know if you remember how much of Game of Thrones you remember, but do you remember the season that was leading to the Battle of Blackwater? There was like that whole season was like preparation for like that big
yeah.
invasion. So imagine season 2 being that, but you never get Blackwater. You have to wait 2 years for the Battle of Blackwater. So it's like it was literal blue balls.
Yeah, because Blackwater is season
2.
3, 2. Okay,
Yeah,
I thought it was 3. Yeah, 2.
Yeah,
All
season
right,
2.
that's right. Because three opens up afterwards. Like it opens with the yeah. Okay.
The aftermath, and 3 was Red Wedding at the end, kind of like that 9th episode, like big event. So and that's kind of why what we reminded is like, yeah, it's funny that I can't imagine what it would have been like watching like that build up to the Battle of Blackwater back in like 2012, but never getting that battle, waiting like years to get. So that's just how it ends.
Fun little thing is everyone calls that the Red Wedding, so that I did not know what I was waiting for an episode titled the Red Wedding. Like, I never I was waiting for that episode. It never showed up, and then the episode where it happens, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yes, it's like because the episode was even just called The Reigns of Castamere. That's like and that was the Lannister.
I was avoiding saying it for the spoilers.
Yeah.
Alex. Okay, come on.
That one's been 10 years, and Game of Thrones is far along from the side, guys. But
it's almost 10 years since it ended.
It's wild to think. It's really wild to think about that.
I didn't watch the show live. I watched it all. When did I watch it? I started 2021.
You way past. So you waited until it was over. So
I watched the first episode when it was like new, and then I didn't watch any more of it until like years later because I just didn't have HBO. Like that was never a thing.
It's funny you mentioned that. Like how I started watching it was because of HBO Now. Because remember there was HBO Go, and then they did HBO Now before Max. So it was like, oh, you can finally have a legit just subscription service that's not tied to a cable box. And I was like, oh, I can finally watch this not in bootleg form. And then I binged the whole thing, even though I always kept up with a lot of the I kept through recaps and video reactions and all of that. So
I didn't know anything about the show. I knew I literally knew the Red Wedding. I didn't know who was the going to be king at the end after the war, or queen, or any of that. Like I didn't know any of that stuff. So I actually, I know this is a little bit of a tangent. I don't want to get us too far off track, but I will say anyone who had problems with Daenerys's turn in the final season, from like the earlier seasons to the final season, and the things that she does in that final season, doesn't know how to read people. Because I saw that coming from like the first time she did anything. I was like, oh, she's crazy. And then I was like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, to me, it's like the idea was planted. Like, it was like planted.
Really well planted.
Yes, it's just that the execution, how it was presented in the final season, that
the whole final season's a mess. Don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with it being a messy final season. It definitely is, and the fact that they forgot the ocean was the
they kind of forgot. They kind of for the famous. They kind of forgot.
And the Starbucks cup, like all of that stuff. Like that whole season is a mess. But I will say that I just the Daenerys character made perfect sense. I was like, okay, that tracks.
Yes, and it was just a victim of kind of like a great seed planted that was ruined by the way the half-assed way that it was all presented. That it made it seem like it wasn't planted, even though it was.
Have you seen Ryan George's pitch meeting for season 8 of Game of Thrones? I love it. He's you can have more episodes if you want. No. There's only so many episodes. Exactly,
man. It's so unfortunate. But hey, House of the Dragon being big was like a show that there was still kind of some hunger with that. But I do find it funny that feels more like a David Zaslav man. There's like, no, we need Game of Thrones. Games now. Like, what have you done? You did one back in PS3 that sucked. And there was the Telltale Game of Thrones too, which
like a legitimate open world Game of Thrones game
would be awesome.
Would be really cool. It would be really cool. And I don't it doesn't even need to be set during like the Game of Thrones time frame. Like it could be in before or after, or honestly, set it in whatever the Eastern continent is called. I can't remember.
Essos,
Eastapula.
Essos.
Estos, yeah.
Yes.
Eastapula. Yeah,
Essos,
Estos.
yes,
West, yeah,
Essos.
West, yeah.
Westeros,
Yeah,
Essos.
yeah, Westeros and Essos. Set it in Essos, and like if you ever look at a map of like the Game of Thrones world, it's super interesting. Like
It's so
I don't care
cool.
about Westeros. I
Yeah.
want to see what's going on the other
Yeah,
continent over
no.
there.
What's so funny is that I remember there were rumors that apparently there were some truth to it at a certain point before they went to the multiplayer pivot that Bethesda was gonna do like their style of RPG in the Game of Thrones universe. Like
Hmm,
that was like in talks, and that
that'd be
never
cool.
really that would have been really cool, and especially back then when
Yeah.
Bethesda still had clout. But yeah, it's
Yep.
like WB is such a mess, and it to me it's so funny that the catastrophic failure of Suicide Squad
Yeah.
and Monolith is basically because they had rebooted their whatever they had developed. They caught the stray from the from
Yeah,
the
they
failure,
did.
and
They
they're
did.
like they should have closed Rocksteady. Like if you really think of it, because they're the ones that like had
Yep.
their leadership turnover. They failed. They were still building the game, but no, Monolith is the one. And whatever the husk is of Rocksteady, it's like I have no hope right now of anything coming out of WB games and it being good. It's
Yeah.
like it's not being handled like that is clear to me. They're like in the death throes of like that EA territory of that the full suit there.
I have more
and the
hope for
shows.
Mass Effect 5 than I do for anything WB does right now.
Yes, and that says a lot considering
Yeah.
things. But yeah,
Yep.
let's move on to other. So
Yeah.
RIP Monolith. Like you deserve better than being with the stupid Warner Brothers. And I don't even think their DC universe is gonna be that successful either, because I feel like they're launching too late. People are sick of shared universes. I feel people want more good
Yeah,
stuff
I
than
think people
connected universes.
I think people like James Gunn though. I do think James Gunn has a little bit of enough clout to.
Yeah, he deserves benefit of the doubt. To me, it's just more
I think
like
he does. And
yeah.
I'll always take anything with Sean Gunn in it, and Sean Gunn's in all of his brother's movies, so I'll take Sean Gunn anytime.
Yeah,
So,
and
but
some
yeah,
of these
next-
casting choices were good. But so I'm more some quick headlines to move forward. Like
yeah,
the PlayStation 5's PlayStation VR 2 is getting a permanent $150 price cut next month. It will now be retailed at $399.
the only thing I'm gonna say on this, Alex, is it should have been $399 from the start.
Thank
I
you.
understand the technology made it a little pricier, and throwing in the game adds a little bit more to it. It should have been $399 from the start, and I bought it at launch. I like it. It's cool. It's not $550 cool, and I don't think it ever was. And and I don't think that there's enough of a market for people to want to spend that kind of money when you can't at launch have access to
the console,
the PC. Well, the console too, but yeah. But the PC suite of games was not available, and it is now. And now it would have been worth a little bit more, or time degrades the price. It could have been. The point is, it should have been even if it was $450 at launch or whatever. Like it should have been it should have been $400 at launch. The fact that it was not, the fact that it was more than the console was at launch,
and with barely any games.
Outlandish.
Yes, and
outlandish. Sony, I love you, Sony. I love PlayStation. You screwed it up. You screwed up this one.
Yeah,
I bought it. It's sitting right. It's right there. It's right over there. I have it. You screwed it up.
Yeah, sort it out. So yeah, sort it out, Sony, with whatchamacallit, with how you're handling VR. Like them cutting the price. I know they're saying that they're trying to clear up stock. I wonder if this is their attempt at still clearing up stock. And obviously they have the adapter for you to play it on PC, but they're still kind of like announcing some VR games. It's like they're like, I want foot in.
Dead. Yeah. I don't think it's dead. I just don't think that Sony. I hope that my hope is the plan is cut the price, get the units out, see that it actually sells at this price, and then have enough of a market for a first party game to be made on it that is high quality.
Yeah.
And take one of your, I don't know, dozen live service teams that you had working on live service games and make a VR game, maybe support your platform. Maybe that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, to me, like it's wild that it's finally gotten to the price the PSVR 1 was in 2016. It's like, to me, it's insane that if they really wanted to proliferate, at least 450 would have been like reason, or maybe $499, like the same price as the as a PS5. The original PSVR was the price of the PS4. That's what's so funny.
The PS5 is 5. The PS5 digital is 4. Was 4, but yeah.
Exactly, but it was like at least a sort of price sort of range instead of being like way more expensive, especially at a time with more anemic support. And the PS5 was barely available also at the time. It was like it was still like getting better.
Also, don't forget that was bad economic times. That it was the start of the high inflation era. If you remember, that was early 22 that it came out, right? So that was right before all the inflation. That was gas prices that summer were skyrocketing.
23. So I think it was like February 2023.
23. Okay. Yeah. So again, still bad economy. We're still in a bad economy. The bad economic times right there. We were still coming down from the crazy high gas prices of summer in America, and the inflation was kicking off crazy amounts in 23. It was bad. It was a bad time to release anything that expensive. And like I said, Sony screwed up. I hope this recovers because I like the PSVR 2 and I like the concept of VR. And
everyone that uses the VR 2 says that at least in quality, it's like there's no better headset.
It's cool.
In the build and the look. So,
but that's all I have to say on it. Like I said, not much.
Yeah. I hope this comes with more game announcements that don't come at the expense of like more traditional games, because I know for sure like that the PlayStation fan base wants more Sony stuff. Yeah,
AAA games for VR is the problem, because there's a ton of cheapo games out there, but there's not a ton of AAA games, and there's a few. I still need to get into some, but there's just so much that's regular to play. Still
play Behemoth. I heard Behemoth is good. So. And then another headline, Konami and Bloober team are working on a new game following the success of Silent Hill 2. So basically this is then confirming that they're going to continue with their Silent Hill partnership. People think, obviously this is you're not a horror guy, but the Silent Hill 2 remake was one of the biggest, like, oh my god, that actually was great from last year, because no one expected Bloober team to deliver anything less than trash, because they're not that good of a team, and that was like
more than trash.
Yeah, exactly. Anything more than trash. So that was like completely blew up expectations. So what were you gonna say?
Yeah. I was just saying I don't have anything to add on this, because I don't have any affinity for Konami, and I don't have any affinity for Bloober or Silent Hill. So, I'm happy for people who are happy.
Yes. To me, I'm happy that Konami is actually releasing games again, because remember, they were gone. Like I understand why you have no affinity. They were gone for like an entire generation. So because they were doing pachinko machines, and now they have like that sweet looking Metal Gear remake that I tell you have to play.
I'd probably enjoy their pachinko machines more than their video games. As someone who does very much enjoy gambling and is going to Vegas soon, I would probably
you have a gambling addiction.
I do not have an addiction. Don't say that. That is not true. Jing will not let us go to Vegas if she thinks that. No, I do not. I am very restrained. Thank you very much.
Okay. Sure enough. Next headline. Ubisoft calls Assassin's Creed Shadows Street break unfortunate, and
I don't really want to talk about this because I don't want to hear anything. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't want to talk about this because I really don't want to hear anything about this game, because I don't want to hear what's broken. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I haven't read anything. This is, eyes covered, ears closed. I don't have any. I'm so excited for Shadows just as a huge Assassin's Creed fan. So it sucks that people are breaking street dates when they don't have the patch ready. I hope that doesn't harm how it does, because I want people to give it a fair chance. That's it. That's all. Yeah,
and that's basically all they were talking about. Is that Ubisoft mentioning, hey, just know that if you start seeing footage because someone broke street date, we're planning on a patch that was gonna like fix and like complete whatever stuff. So don't take like what you're seeing as kind of like the definitive version of that game. But who never knows. But just be aware, games out there sucks. We would have been playing it by now. We would have been playing about 2 weeks at this point. So, man, poor Assassin's Creed Shadows.
You would have been in Monster Hunter World, and I would have been in Kingdom Come Deliverance. So.
But at least we would have played probably the first hour, because we would have been like, oh yeah, you have come out. Let me try. Oh cool, it's it. Like, going back to that. It would have been in our hands, and we were kind of like moved on from it. So But to me, it's just so sad that it feels like they can't catch a break. Like, I know they're betting everything on this, but gosh, it's like everything. It feels like a pipe that just keeps leaking with new holes every time when they're patching something. Yeah. It's something
Creed
with that.
Has really does have that silent majority effect, because it always makes money. It like even Mirage, like it's not like to
Mirage was their fastest selling game this
right.
generation,
I
which
was
is
gonna
wild.
say as a slight segue into our next headline here, it's not like Dragon Age,
Yeah.
where the silent majority, the people who love Dragon Age, just didn't show up for it, or if they even existed at all, and the game
Uh,
suffered because of it. And it was 10 years, and you were like banking on a 10-year-old audience, fan base or whatever. They had a game out 2 years ago.
yeah, exactly. So, and in that segue, yeah, it's like the next great headline. Just months after release, EA has put Dragon Age: The Veilguard on PS Plus Essential for their offerings for March,
Play the
alongside
darn game, people.
alongside Sonic Colors and the TMNT Kawabanga collection. That's still so. That to me is like, at least it puts into like interest what EA meant with 1.5 million players. Like, that clearly it did that. And it was a lot of them. Maybe half of them were from that EA Play Pro thing that they tried it or whatever it was. But that's still, to me, that's still so sad. That is like, man, a game that sold 12 million to being in PS Plus 4 months after launch. That's wild.
Play the game, people. If you're on PS Plus Essential, which I think there's like 80 million people on PS Plus Essential,
they'll have it
like that.
they'll
just
have
play
it.
the game. Just play the game. There's no reason not to. You literally spend no extra money, download the game, and give it a shot, because it's still a really fun game. If you're a Dragon Age fan, you've probably already played it. If you're not a Dragon Age fan, you might like it even more than a Dragon Age fan would, because it's really not a Dragon Age game. Which
my bet with this, that we're about to see a bunch of, this isn't as bad as I heard. I mark my words. You're gonna start hearing a lot of that. But
I hope so, because it's not as bad as people made it out to be. It's not. It is definitely not as bad as the online discourse would have you believe.
Yeah. To me, it's still a wild get for PS Plus. I would hope
5 months, 4 months. Yeah.
Yes, and I hope it goes to Game Pass too. If you're giving it away, send it everywhere now. Like, get those bags.
I mean, you know what? It benefits me because now I have a digital copy, and I don't need to buy a digital copy of it, and I can have it available to play. I mean, because I would have bought the digital copy of it eventually to play, because like I said with Monster Hunter, having it on digital, kind of game you're going to go back to. I like to have games to go back to. I literally have a physical copy of imported from PlayAsia of Like a Dragon Guide and the Men Who Raised His Name, just sitting sealed in a box in my condo.
Even though you have the digital version.
Because I wanted to have the physical copy, but also I was like, I don't really want to open that. I'm just going to buy the digital when it's cheap. And that's what I did. So this being digital is and free for PS Plus people, no additional cost is great. And people should play it. And I hope they do.
I would say for Essential, this is one of the best Essential lineups that I've seen. Like the Sonic game that they're giving is one of the best, the better 3D Sonic games in a sea of garbage Sonic games.
This is definitely the not even probably. This is definitely the best release to availability on PS Plus Essential ratio in terms of quality of game. Like, there's never been a game as high quality as Dragon Age: The Veilguard made available on PS Plus Essential this fast, this quickly. And if you can remove a lot of that discourse, like, you'll find a game that's like very technically sound, that if you like action adventure, it's fun. So I still need to go back to it. I still need to go back to it, but I'm getting more now that it's gonna be back in that way. I'm more curious. Maybe I'll play it in this bad boy. So I'll play it as I'm kind of like double watching. So, another news, Xbox has officially delayed Fable to 2026. Quote, "It's definitely worth the wait." So, Joe, you got screwed with this one, right? Fortunately, it was on my fantasy team for two different. So I'm in two fantasy leagues, one on the Fantasy Critic website, and it was on there. But I had Kingdom Come as my first pick, so that was a huge chunk up, and I snuck in, and I got a draft of a pickup rather of Blueprints, which I think is going to do really well. So I'm still pretty comfortable in that one, even with a nice goose egg from the Fable one. But really, what is the worst is the Sifted Fantasy League is this.
Is it a paid one?
No, it's not paid, but you do get a free game or 2 free games if you win. And I had this one. I was like the only one that had this one on the list in the top, because I was really believing in Playground. I honestly have to stop believing in Xbox, because they've bit me every single time I've tried to bet on them. That's why I didn't end up taking Avowed on my Fantasy Critic League, my Fantasy League one, the website one. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I really like Fable. I really liked Fable 2 and 3, and I eventually went and played 1. I don't remember if I played 1.
Mhm.
I never had an Xbox. I only had a 360, so I played the Fable 1 Legend.
Anniversary, the
Yeah,
anniversary, yeah.
anniversary. Yeah, I played the anniversary one, and that was good. And I played Fable 2, and I really love Fable 3. I got the collectors of Fable 3. It was one of my earliest collector's editions when Fable 3 came out. I bought a Kinect to play the Fable Journeys game,
Yeah.
and I
Oh man, I
never
remember.
played it. I never played it. I still have the game unopened in the box
Mhm.
because I heard that your story from Fable 3 was like imported into Fable Journey
I
or something like that, and I did not have a great ending in Fable 3 because you don't have enough money, and the only way to get enough money is to like play your lyre in front of a crowd for like
uh
10 hours.
and you
I
don't
don't
like
know.
playing, and you don't like playing like morally compromised characters, right? In your RPGs.
Yeah, I mean, I do stuff. It depends on what I'm doing. It depends on the
Yeah.
game. But yeah, so that was whatever. It was it. I am excited for this new Fable just to see what it really is. I did not watch the alpha gameplay that they
Mhm.
showed. I know they had some alpha gameplay come out. I saw like a screenshot of it. I'm
Yeah.
sure. I think it was just like the girl walking through the woods or
Yeah, I
something.
mean, basically, like if you remember from the Xbox showcases, like when they showed the girl walking through the woods,
Yeah.
it was that. So it was
Okay.
like, okay, at least we know that what they were showing in the showcases is still what they're saying the game is gonna look like. But kind of like you, is like, I feel like I'm tired of giving this much rope to Xbox, and at this point, it doesn't even matter. It's like, yeah, keep delaying it. You're not even selling consoles at this point. Like you're just trying to be like a third party publisher. So it's like I didn't. To me, like if they were still kind of like in the competition of trying to sell more Xboxes and getting foothold or things like that, I would feel more calamity of, God damn it, again another delay for
Yeah.
Fable. Like for this, like it always feels like every time I've seen it. This is the year of Xbox. Now this is the year. Now this is the year. It feels like I'm watching a sports team at this point. I feel like I'm watching like Manchester City, like that, like before Pep Guardiola or things like that. That they're
Or
like, no,
Tottenham Hotspur now.
exactly, or no, another one, PSG. That they're like, oh yeah, we got Messi, we got Mbappe, and all of that. It's like
Yeah.
now we're competitive, and never happened. It feels like that. I feel Xbox is more like a PSG with how much money they've spent, like with like supposedly bringing all that talent in, and nothing ever materialized.
Alex, Tottenham had Harry freaking Kane for like
Yeah,
a decade and couldn't win a trophy.
yeah, that's still so wild. And Kane was still one of like considered one of the goats in
He's a wunderkind,
yeah.
which is funny to say because he's playing in Bayern now, but
Uh,
in Germany.
yeah, they like that. That was one
Uh,
of the worst I let goes that could have happened with, and they really
I
had
think he
him.
wanted to go. Like he was tired of not winning trophies.
What was it? Gareth Bale was also from Tottenham, right? Yeah,
Yep.
too. Like they had
Yep.
such great homegrown talent that never like makes it far, like in
Yeah. Bale
competitions.
came back. Bale came back for on loan for a
Yeah.
season. I still remember like a clip of him scoring a hat trick and Rob Daly, the voice for Tottenham in the overlay.
Uh,
He's like, "You never thought you'd see it again. Gareth
Gareth
Bale
Bale.
scoring in a Tottenham jersey or whatever." Yeah.
uh,
And I didn't know
oh,
Bell at the time because I wasn't I only started watching soccer football in like 2021 or 2020, so
the pandemic really opened your eyes
it
to so
did
much stuff,
it
right?
opened my eyes to platinum trophies a lot of the way. It
uh,
opened my eyes to soccer. It opened my eyes to turn-based JRPGs with Dragon Quest 11. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I know a lot of people didn't like lockdown and everything, but I was pretty chill.
I kind of miss that's what's so funny. Like, considering where things are, like lockdown feels like good times at this point with everything. But yeah, it's like back to Xbox. Like they're continuing to be like that sports team that always keeps promising, and they're just always kind of like it feels like they're under delivering all the time. Like Indiana Jones once again. Now it just feels like that one rare blip up. That was such a like that one. Like you see, like they had that consistently mid line that then suddenly has like the big pick that is like, oh, it's finally we're back here. Like about the lowest scoring Obsidian game from like
Yeah.
their run. It's like it's so wild to think. Even though that we know with Here's We've Heard from About that considering it's a rescued project from a different start that turned out much better than
Honestly, I think
expected.
people are overblowing the rescue
Exactly.
project nature of Avowed because if you can start as whatever you want, but this game clearly had the vast majority of its development cycle as a single player game. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you want to say it started as a multiplayer game, and it was a multiplayer game in like 20 like 20 or
21.
whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, 2020 or 2021, and then it comes out 4 years later. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure that the vast majority of that dev time was in single player, and you had
Yeah.
like you didn't have a skeleton, you didn't have a husk that you were resurrecting. You had like a general idea,
Mhm.
and then you switched it. I
And
I
I
think
think
that
that's the difference, because then, like, compared going back to Dragon Age, that
yeah,
was a husk that they
it
tried to
was a husk.
resurrect.
It was an actual husk. They took the husk and turned it into
Mhm.
Belgard, and we know that. And I don't think that's been confirmed enough. Carrie Patel has done enough interviews. I don't think that she's even hinted at that being a husk,
Mhm.
resurrection project. So
Yeah.
yeah, I will look forward to Fable whenever it comes out. I think it's probably going to be good because Playground knows how to make good games. I've never played the Horizon ones, but I know people love those
You'll
games,
get
and
to finally on April
I
25th if
still
you
won't. I don't
want.
like racing games. I don't
There
I'm
you
into
go.
racing, but yeah, and then that's really it for that. And we can move into the last couple topics here, which
Yep.
are
Because this morning,
new.
yeah, there was like the Pokemon Direct happened this morning. I woke up like weirdly enough around the time that it was coming. I was like, oh,
I
let me
forgot. I
watch.
completely forgot it was happening, and I just saw it on my phone as I was doing work.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal, other than like one of the big announcements is this first headline. Pokemon Champions announced for Nintendo Switch and mobile. So it's basically taking the idea of the Pokemon Stadium games from back in the N64 days and unifying both Scarlet and Violet and Pokemon Go and unite like some of the characters that you can earn in that, and then take that into battles that you can use here in Pokemon Champions. So, and you can do that from the Switch or in whatever phone you have. I feel that's a good idea. That's a cool idea of like, hey, I just want to battle some people. Here's my phone. Let's go battle someone,
Yeah,
or
that'd
things
be
like that.
cool.
It's like I feel that's like okay, cool. It's like yeah, you got it right with Pokemon Go. That was like such a big deal and blah blah blah. And this is I feel like that's a good next step to have something that's quick to get in like a phone and
Yeah,
get into some battles. So
yeah. I think that's a cute idea. It doesn't personally interest me because the thing that I like about Pokemon is, interestingly, the journey and the story of like getting you starting at nothing and building up and getting your badges and all of that. So this, like, just battling as Pokemon or battling Pokemon doesn't particularly interest me that much, but
mhm.
I can recognize that it's a good idea, and I think that it'll be fun for a lot of people who really like the Pokemon battles.
Yeah,
But I'm much more interested in their story driven games, or their open world kinds
mhm.
of things like we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, like Pokemon Legends CA, which is also gonna connect to this,
Yeah.
to Pokemon Champions. So basically, they're trying to unify almost everything that's playable in Pokemon right now in modern times, that has access to everything like that Pokédex and all of that, and that's how you're gonna be able to then just focus on battles if you want in Pokemon Champions. So,
Yeah.
but well, Legends CA they kind of showed a new trailer that details some new mechanics, and reconfirmed that it's still coming out this year. Just not they don't have a release date yet. They said later in 2025. So for this one, I'm
Yeah.
gonna read the story by Jordan Middler over at BGC. As shown during today's Pokemon Presents stream, the game, which is the second game in the Pokemon Legends spin-off series, will be released later this year. Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile will serve as the starter Pokemon in the game. I think those were the ones from Sapphire and Ruby, if I remember correctly, from back in the day. I could be
That
wrong.
sounds
Yeah.
right.
Yes. The game will feature the same catching mechanics as Pokemon Legends Arceus. AC and Floette from Pokemon X and Y will return as an NPC. Players will be able to catch Pokemon and wild stones throughout the city, which looks like a France. Pokemon will not appear in every area in the game. Instead, specific areas, which will be enclosed by large green gates shown in the trailer, will denote to the player if it is an area where they can catch a wild Pokemon in or not. It's unknown how many of these will be in the game, but several different terrains, from city streets to ponds and rooftops, were shown. New battle mechanics will also be introduced, which will see both the Pokemon and player characters move around the game world. Wild battles, which can be used to slow down Pokemon that the player is trying to catch, as well as trainer battles, will both feature in the game. The game will be released for Nintendo Switch in late 2025, according to the Pokemon Company. So kind of like what I said of the combat, it's like it feels like it's active time battle in a way, like you're moving
Yeah.
around like with like your Pokemon, and even have kind of like some things like in commands and all that. I was like, that seems kind of neat.
Yeah, because
Like,
the original Legends Arceus was not, it was still just a normal turn-based battle where you could
uh,
like run around a little bit. Just clarification here. So Chikorita and Totodile are Generation 2, and it was
okay, Golden
actually
Seal, Golden Silver then.
yeah, and Pepig is actually from Generation 5.
Oh, okay, so it's like a big mix then. So
I mean, it's interesting. Do you know what the Pokemon that would have been here that is not here?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which would have been.
Cyndaquil is the other
Cyndaquil
one.
is the other. I
Is the
remember.
other starter, and Cyndaquil is the one that evolves into Typhlosion, which, if you'll
Typhlosion.
recall, had some controversy come up around some fan
Yeah,
fiction that the people who make Pokemon
yeah,
uh, wrote.
yeah. Now I remember.
So
Yeah, you just brought it up. So I'll say like I enjoyed Arceus with what I played. This was an interesting like evolution to trying to do open world Pokemon. Obviously, Scarlet and
mhm.
Violet was not good. I am hoping to see like how this game runs on Switch 2. So it's coming this later. They just like announced it for Switch 1. So it's probably gonna be just like a cross-play thing.
Yeah,
But it looked interesting. Now it's been so a long while since I played a Pokemon game that these games just kind of just hit the spot like that random kind of like turn your brain off for like a baby's first RPG style. Like it's just something that is just
they're
like
cute. They're so mindless in modernity, especially I basically stopped after the DS came out because I never had a DS, and I picked it back up with Sword and Shield,
Mhm.
and the changes are so, again, it's so mindless. It like tells you everything. Like as soon as you attack once, you forever know what's weak against what in the menus and the types and all that. And it's so chill, and it was so relaxing to play Sword and Shield, which was technically solid and fun to play after having not played for a long time. And then you had the technically mess of Scarlet and Violet that I own and haven't actually played more than like 10 minutes of because it was so broken.
Yeah.
That like I'm just like, oh well, this, and I was interested in the differences in the Legends series. And so I think that it's exciting to see Pokemon do different things and have something that looks like it's probably still more chill than the old school Pokemon
Mhm.
games, but not quite as simple as the newer ones, because Arceus had some complex nature to it. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
it wasn't it wasn't as easy as like
Yeah.
Sword and Shield was, especially with the open world and the exploration and
But that's kind of what made it cooler
open
because it
zones.
finally felt like the Pokemon Company or whoever did that one
Yeah, it was Pokemon
finally,
Company. It's always Pokemon Company.
yeah, or like Game Freak, or I think it was Game Freak that also did it.
The game, yeah,
That
it's always both of them. It's
yes,
never, yeah,
yeah, it's like they're basically potato one and the same. Like it's
more
a
or less.
company and Game Freak. It just felt like, hey, it's cool seeing them attempt something that's just not another game. That's kind of like been like the problem that series has
Yeah,
eventually kind of just fallen on, and just kind of like that quick. I feel it's been pretty prudent of them that they held off on doing a new generation this quick. I feel they probably realized that they're gonna take their time, and next year is
there
the
was a lot of
30th.
time between Sword and Shield and
Mhm.
Scarlet and Violet, though. Like that was not a short turnaround. It was Sword and Shield came out in
2019, 19,
2019, and Scarlet and Violet was
2.
22. That's
So
three
three
years.
years. Yeah.
That's not a short time. It's not like they're
Yeah.
doing it every year.
Yeah, I think like what screwed them there was the fact that they co-developed Arceus and those two like within like
Yeah.
they came out of the same year and they still the same company making
And
them.
they
So
had
it's
the
probably,
Diamond and Pearl remake too.
yeah. So stretched too thin. I feel they're
Yeah.
probably
I think
trying
that's
to,
probably more likely it.
yeah, they're probably trying to give themselves more time and difference in that. So, like
Yeah.
I'm glad that with the next gen is not the same year as CA. So maybe next year will be the next the next generation of Pokemon, and maybe that one's gonna be like relaunching on Switch 2 and much better. Who knows? But
We'll
yeah,
see.
I'm interested in this. Let's see how late in 2025 it comes. Like like
Yeah, I would not be surprised if they do a Scarlet Violet
remaster.
yeah, I mean not a remaster. I was trying to think of like what another what's another color? Like what's
Oh, Scarlet, Violet,
forest
teal
green.
or
Yeah,
teal.
teal. Yeah, I would not be
Pokemon
surprised if they
teal.
did like a Pokemon Teal version, because they haven't done it they didn't do it with Sword and Shield, because there were rumors about it. And remember the one before Sword and Shield was Sun and Moon, and they had like a
Mhm.
rumor of stars, but they actually did Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Mhm.
Like they didn't do anything like that with Sword and Shield, so I would not be surprised if they went back to it with Scarlet and Violet for Switch 2 to like
Mhm.
maybe fix them and still charge you full price again.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. And
And I
people will
will
always
say
buy it.
if they I will say if they do that and it is fixed, I will buy it again. I will not buy it if it's not fixed. It's not
Yeah.
worth it because I own the old version, but I will buy a newer version if it actually works. But
Yeah, especially you,
we'll
it
see.
would have been, yeah, that would have been like enough time for you to kind of like go back in. So we'll see. With that, and with
Yeah,
that,
that's
we've
it.
run out of the headlines for this week's episode. Joe, read me the release dates for March 2nd to March 8th, 2025.
You got it. Alex.
You got a lot.
So
So
there's big list, the biggest list since I started as the full-time co-host here.
Mhm.
So we've got Age of Mythology Retold coming to PS5 on March 4th. That is a remaster of an old Age of Mythology game that's currently on Xbox and PC and coming to PS5 now. We have Grimoire Groves coming to PC on March 4th as well. Also on March 4th is 2-Point Museum coming on to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. And the final March 4th one is War Robots Frontiers coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. I don't know what that is, but that sounds kind of interesting. And then we have a game called Wizardom coming to PC on March 5th. That also sounds interesting, but gives me a bad vibe of being a dumb little indie game. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's awesome. I don't know. Dragonkin the Banished comes to PC on March 6th. That also sounds kind of interesting. Also on March 6th is Chernobylite 2 Exclusion Zone to PC for early access. We have Eldrador Creatures Shadowfall coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC, also March 6th. Bragpunk coming to PC, Xbox Series X, and PS5 on March 6th. Go figure. And the real March 6th headline is Split Fiction coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S on March 6th, as I said.
Yeah.
Finally,
some would say the real headline is the next one.
Finally, for the old men in the room that like their 2D games, Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Gate Rune, and Dunin Unification Wars comes to PS4, PS5, PC, Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S on March 6th. And then we have Sugardew Island, Your Cozy Farm Shop. That is a very descriptive title.
Yeah.
Coming to PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC on March 7th. And finally, WWE 2K25 enters early access for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC on March 7th.
Lots of games. Lots of games. And then obviously Age of Mythology Retold I already played. It's on Game Pass. But cool, it's funny, it's another PS5 port. The War Robots Frontiers, I was trying to load up a trailer for it because it actually sounds cool. I just don't know if it's like a multiplayer game or things like that. I'm trying to see cinematic trailer. Man, I think my internet is kind of screwed right now. I don't know why. It's like not load. It actually looks really cool if you look at the trailer.
Yeah, I'm looking at some pictures of
it. It's online multiplayer PvP battles. Bummer.
What's Wizardom? Is Wizardom anything interesting?
It sounds like, I think it's an indie.
No, it's a retro FPS. Nope.
Yeah. Ooh, I'd be down for that because I like Iron Fury. But
maybe you should review it.
Yeah, we'll see. Then obviously Split Fiction is probably like the big headline of this entire thing. And and then the Hoglaw will be playing Suikoden 1 and 2.
Ooh, Dragonkin the Banished looks a little interesting. That looks like a Diablo. It's the Diablo-like. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Cool.
It's an interesting eclectic selection for this coming week.
plenty of options for people across the spectrum. Definitely.
Yeah. If not, just keep playing Monster Hunter, as you can play it as soon as you start hearing for this. Like,
you will already be playing it, hopefully, by the time this has gone live.
Oh, yes. Especially now that we were hating that. But that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Joe, where can people find you?
You can find me at Joseph_Law_Rusa on Twitter, and you can find my writing at Seasoned Gaming as Don Lionheart. I recently reviewed Avowed. I did the Avowed review also on the Seasoned Gaming YouTube channel, which was my first big embargoed review. It was really exciting to get it out there. It's a couple weeks old now. It's done decently well in the in terms of the views and everything, of course, but can always use some more people giving it a look. It's sitting at 1.1k reviews with a bunch of comments on there, so engagement's always welcome. And that's pretty much it. I have nothing in the works at the moment for writing. I do eventually still want to get that Mafia piece out that I've mentioned for a while. I've just been a little bit occupied with work in real life and other things going on. So yeah, that's it for me. And I will be here next week you can catch me here.
Yeah, and maybe just like have that thing locked and ready or whenever we finally get the release date for Old Country.
I am thinking about putting it off until then. Yeah.
Yeah, but write it now and just have it kind of like in the can, how they say it. And then you can find me at _Segovia on Twitter, on Segovia on Blue Sky, and my written content right now is also citizengaming.com, where you can read my review for Eternal Strands, Monster Hunter Wilds, and a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth editorial that I wrote around the PC release, and plus the technical analysis I co-wrote with some of my buddies there. And what I'll write next, to be determined. It's interesting right now, because like it feels like what we want to write, it's like all spread out right now. So we have like a lot of gaping holes right now with what I want. Like my second review just so happens to happen because I wasn't gonna review it either way. So we'll see how that goes. But until that happens, I want to thank you so much to everyone that keeps listening and watching and the YouTubes and whatever podcast service of your choice. We crossed a big milestone for listeners with last week's episode, and I want to say thank you to everyone that keeps listening on your audio services.
Wait, what milestone?
We passed like 5K total, so total listens, which is like big.
Nice
for a show that we don't really promote. Like I don't do like a heavy promotion. I was just being like, let's see how we can just far it can grow without having
natural
growth. Natural growth, because it's like that way you know that whoever's listening, it's legit. It's not just like an inflated, because it's easy to inflate numbers. So I was pretty happy to see that. And yes, thank you so much for everyone. Like if you like what you watch or listen, leave us a comment or give us a like and subscribe and leave a review in your podcast service of your choice. And we'll be here every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing. Same channel, same time. And enjoy the rest of this weekend. Enjoy it now that we are basically now at the end of this month, which is wild. We're now in March. Where has time gone? And play some games and
press X
to play. Hasta la vista, baby.